Hey, so chat me up here. You said this is the biggest one, and they obviously bounced back in a big way because WrestleMania was a happening. Madison Square Garden being the big arena it was, and it was so world famous, and there's all this closed circuit opportunity, and they've got major mainstream. Look at this fucking Tom Zink in here.
How about
Rick
How about
Martel
Tom?
action. Tom's a damn good looking man.
That's what I understand. I've heard it on this podcast before, and Rick Martel's not a bad looking young man himself.
And we got Orton, Fuji, The Rock, Don Moroco, the real Rock. Of course, Howard Finkel on the stick. Howard Finkel is synonymous with this era WWF to me.
Well, listen, Howard Finkel's the best ring announcer ever, I think. And that's just my opinion. I know that I've talked a lot here on this podcast about Truckin' Tom Miller, how great he was, but to me, the Fink was the man.
You know what? I don't know that you've ever noticed this, but when I saw a close up of Cowboy Bob Orton,
yeah,
if I didn't know better, I would think him and Randy Orton are related. They've got a lot of similar facial features. We should check into that. I wonder if Cowboy Bob was ever in the St. Louis area and met up with a lovely lady and some shenanigans happened. I mean, we need to look into that. Do you think there's a chance that Randy Orton might actually be related to Bob Orton? Cause they favor, man.
Well, they certainly do look alike. And the fact that a wrestler, shenanigans, lovely lady seemed to always go together, didn't it?
I don't know. I think that's all rumor and innuendo. By the way, what would you make of the way Magnificent Moroco has patterned his chest hair here?
I have to take a closer look at this. He patterned his chest hair.
Yeah. It feels like he's decided to shave most of it, but he's left some.
Uh-huh.
And,
oh, I see it. Yeah. Like a V.
I don't know what's going on. Like he left it on behind his, like on his back too. It's like,
right. Well, it's almost, he was very well known to have quite the sense of humor. And, he probably just did this to do something different, to make his opponents laugh, if nothing else, because he knew he was wrestling a couple, if I can use the term, pretty boys. So he thought he would just surprise him with something of his own, knowing how Don Moroco was. Now, I never knew Don personally, but I'd heard the stories that he was quite the ripper.
So he had already left the Mid-Atlantic territory by the time you came in?
Yeah. Yeah. I never met Don.
So did you meet Fuji? Yeah, you knew Fuji from WWF.
Right.
And you knew
right.
Tom Zink, you knew Martel. What about Gorilla's son? Did you ever meet him?
Oh yeah. Joey Morella was a great kid. And a tragic end to his life as well. He was a good one. He was a good referee.
How much time did you spend with the Cowboy?
None. Oh, none with the Cowboy. I did, the first Starrcade, the Cowboy was there.
Right.
And he was in the back, and I was just kind of like, new kid on the block and kind of nervous that he was back there and Harley Race was back there and Dick Slater was back there. And I was just kind of, didn't really get to know him that well at all. I saw him recently, I guess. I can't remember. I guess I saw him 2 years ago at WrestleCon, and like everyone, he's aged quite a bit, but he was a hell of a performer. He really was. He was the ace Cowboy.
He's aged quite a bit, you said.
Yes, he has aged quite a bit. You'll age quite a bit one day. I won't be around to see that, but you will.
Why are you? Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
No, I'm just saying, just how people age. It's amazing, but people do age.
So, talk to me a little bit about.
Hey, you know who's aged?
Your mom.
Well, yes, Vincent K. McMahon has aged. Take a look at the Vince McMahon that we see now on these shows, and take a look at what we saw there. Man, how has he aged? Holy smokies!
Who do you think has aged worse, Vince McMahon or Mr. Fuji?
Vince McMahon.
Vince McMahon or Tom Zink?
Vince McMahon.
Vince McMahon or Joey Morella?
Vince McMahon.
I'm gonna tell you, Joey Morella's got to be looking rough by now. I'm just gonna tell you. Got to.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. A lot of these guys who are in the show no longer with us, Pay attention if you can.
Yeah. Hey, so, that was a great spot right there by Martel. I really like that. I don't know that I've seen that one before, or maybe not in a while. You made a comment about, the this one being the biggest and this one really sort of making WrestleMania. The first one was clearly a huge success. Lots of celebrities in the biggest market in the US, the most famous arena, a hot celebrity main event.
Right.
Hulk Hogan was probably at the peak of wrestling, hype and popularity, and they're making appearances on Saturday Night Live. And of course, Mr. T is on a hit show, and he's done the Rocky movie, and so is Hogan. So there's just lots of buzz in the mainstream about WrestleMania, and they try to keep that momentum going. For whatever reason, it doesn't work as well for WrestleMania 2. Maybe they were a little too ambitious with, where they wanted to make it 3 times as bigger. So 3 towns, and, it was a fine show, I guess, at the time, but people sort of do just skip over 2 as if it was a misstep.
Right.
But man, did they rebound big here or what? And it's important to note that, when they did 2, of course, as we said, the first one, biggest market in the world, New York City, blah, blah, blah. But when they do 2, they go to really, really big markets as well. They've got one in Chicago, they've got one in New York, they've got one in LA. So they're covering the major markets for the US. But now for 3, dude, they're in Pontiac, Michigan. And it's not even a real town. It's a suburb. And it's just this giant thing. It's amazing to me that they were able to do this and do it here after such a departure from everywhere else. And by the way, I know I'm going to get a lot of shit. I'm just saying it's in the Detroit metro, but it's a suburb of Detroit that's got 60,000 folks or something stupid.
Right.
Whereas Chicago, you're talking, 3 million people, New York and LA, even more than that. So it is weird to see them say, okay, instead of just being in the biggest town in the US or the 3 biggest towns, fuck it. Let's go to a suburb of Detroit.
Well, let's go to a town that they were hot in, that they knew they could do well, that they had a great partner in the Silverdome. And you're right. I've spent a lot of time in that part of the country. The Silverdome and where the Detroit Pistons used to play, the Palace of Auburn Hills, they're way outside of Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
A long way outside of Detroit. It's where the Lions played at that time. So it was a very well-known venue. So you're right. It was very ambitious. But, man, they did it right. How about this? Congratulations on the 2 good-looking guys, Tom Zink. Man, Tom Zink, he's handsomer there than I remember. He's a good-looking feller.
By the way, this, I know this is the silliest thing I've ever heard, but can I tell you that 10 years ago, or maybe it wasn't that long ago, once upon a time, the Silverdome was up for sale.
What?
Yeah. It had been abandoned. It was obviously in horrible shape.
Right.
But it was for sale. I mean, it was essentially a fire sale. They sold it for under $600,000. Process what I just said out loud.
The building and the land, right?
Yeah. Under $600,000.
Wow. What do they have there now?
I'm not exactly sure. I just know that I was trying to talk to some of my buddies here, and I was like, hey man, we should all kick in and we should fucking buy the Silverdome.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Well, I can awesome. Figure out better ways to piss your money away than that.
No, I'm just saying you could have done something with that, or at least that was my idea.
Why don't we put the offices of Conrad Thompson Enterprise in the Silverdome, right in the middle of it?
By the way, I think it's been demolished since then.
Yes, it has.